بالنسبه لما يجيك ستيف بروس مثلا يحط لك 5 في خط الدفاع ويلعب مهاجمين اللاعبين في النص.
What is your VPN?
My VPN?
Yes.
My VPN is Snyder VPN.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم في برنامج نيوكاسل مع وليد، البرنامج الخاص مع كريستوفر الذي يتكلم عن أبرز أخبار الصحف في السعودية وبريطانيا، المختصة طبعا الأخبار الخاصة بنادي نيوكاسل يونايتد. طبعا الأخبار احنا نحاول نجيب من مصادرها الموثوقة من صحفيين موثوقين كالعادة كل سبت. طبعا يعني الله يهديهم بعض الحسابات تروح تترجم أي خبر ومن مصادر يعني عندها أجندة خاصة ضد السعودية ونيوكاسل وما إلى آخره. أنا نحاول نجيب الأخبار الصحيحة يعني، لأنه كثير يجيني أسئلة في الخاص أو في تويتر إنه ليش هذا قال كذا، طيب حنا خايفين من مثلا عقود الرعاية، خايفين إنه الأندية تقف. هذه كلها أخبار أغلبها تكون مغلوطة، فحنا حريصين مع كريس إننا نجيب الأخبار من مصادرها الصحيحة. would like welcome Chris from latest newspaper in Newcastle. Welcome Chris.
صباح الخير.
صباح الخير، صباح النور. Yeah, it's been a crazy week, Chris, and not just for Newcastle, for me in particular. And I have a show today about everything I did in Newcastle. عندي اليوم حلقة خاصة إن شاء الله في 5 بتوقيت السعودية عن رحلتي في نيوكاسل، لكن الآن راح نتكلم عن الصحف. So, what you have for us today, Chris?
Well, I've got 3 great articles. The first one we're going to look at is what was our new coach, Eddie Howe, what has he been doing for the last 18 months since his last appointment by the Athletics' Chris Waff. And basically what we're looking at is Eddie Howe didn't just spend the last 18 months on the beach. He was studying coaches like Atletico Madrid's Diego Simeone, and he was, as he said, digitizing his whole training program, which is bringing Newcastle from like the 19th century into the 21st century. So he's really modernized the approach that he will bring to Newcastle, and it's a big change from Steve Bruce, where Steve Bruce basically just kind of threw the ball out on the pitch and said, "Okay, lads, go at it." Everything that Eddie Howe does is methodical, thought out, very deliberate, and he expects excellence. And he's not going to have any tolerance for people that don't buy into his program, are not fit. There's a concern I heard that the fitness levels are only 60% of what he expected they should be at this point in the season. So there's going to be a lot of fitness drills, tactics, which we never heard under Bruce. Bruce said he didn't really favor tactics. So it's a complete night and day, as we say, night and day from Bruce to Eddie Howe in terms of the approach that he brings, what he expects from his players. And now that they're training 5 days a week, this is training 5 days a week. Under Bruce, it was like maybe it was lucky if they trained 3 days a week and then they had a couple days off. But Eddie Howe expects the best excellence, but he also puts in the work. Gets into work before 7 a.m. and he's still at the training pitch at dark at 7 p.m. So he's pulling 12-hour days. And Steve Bruce was, like a part-time manager at best. And we're very lucky to have a manager who's so committed, because we really need to until January we are going to make the most of what we have now. We can't make any transfers until January, so we have to get the best out of the players that we have. And that's what Eddie Howe is all about: getting the best out of his players, expecting excellence, but also he's putting in the work as well.
Chris, just regarding 5 days with Eddie Howe now and 3 days with Steve Bruce. I remember Steve Bruce, he said medical teams decide these things.
No, I think anything that Steve Bruce said we can pretty much dismiss as rubbish, it's not just Eddie Howe, as we'll talk about in the next article, but he's got a whole backroom staff. His top assistant Jason Tyndall from his Bournemouth days, who was, when Eddie Howe left Bournemouth, Jason Tyndall took over as the head coach, and now he's brought Jason Tyndall and his former assistants back up to Newcastle. And as he said in other interviews, he's going to, which I think you translated, he's going to be moving his family up to Newcastle after Christmas. There was a concern last time he went to up north to Burnley that he was homesick away from family and away from his mother who died. And this time he's going to make sure that he's got all his family support around him, because he said that if he did the job when he did move his family, he would never see them. So he's a committed family man, but he also is a committed coach, and so he wants to have that work-life balance, as people would call it, and to have his family support around him. So he'll have his family up in Newcastle after Christmas.
بريليانت. طبعا هذا المقال كريس ووف من الأتلتيك يقول، طبعا من الصحفيين الموثوقين، يتكلم عن يعني دفاع عن ايدي هاو. يعني جاء نقد كثير انه يعني ايش معنى ايدي هاو، ليش. طبعا في تفاصيل كثير راح نتكلم عنها، بس راح نترجم هذا المقال اول. طبعا كلنا نعرف انه ايدي هاو بعد ما هبط بورموث في اوغست 2020 تم يعني اقالته من بورموث. كانت العوده بعد كورونا في المرحله الاولى في الدوري الانجليزي كانت مؤثره جدا على بورموث، وحصل على هزائم متلاحقه. لكن في الفتره هذه ايدي هاو يقول لك ما اخذ اجازه، يعني فقط اجازه، راح سوى تدريبات، عمل تدريبات دورات خارجيه، راح حتى مع سيموني في اتلتيكو مدريد دوره خاصه في التكتيك، راح ايضا نادي الافيس الاسباني لحضور اسلوب جديد في التدريب. يعني جالس يطور نفسه يعني، ويكون الخطه القادمه له في مسيرته التدريبيه اللي عرضها طبعا على نيوكاسل، واختاروه لهذه الاسباب، احد هذه الاسباب. برضو عملوا مقارنه مع ستيف بروس من كذا ناحيه، انه الان يقول لك اهم حاجه تنقص نيوكاسل شغلتين: اللياقه والتكتيك. طبعا بروس تكتيكه يعني كان باي ديفولت، كان يعني طق على قولتهم، طق الكوره والحقها. يقول لك مقارنه كالليل والنهار. طبعا كان ايدي هاو الحين لا تقل تدريبات عن 5 مرات في الاسبوع من الصباح الباكر. ستيف بروس كان يقول لك اذا كانوا يعني مره مكروفين على قولتهم 3 أيام فقط في الاسبوع. سالت انا كريس انه كان يقول لك ستيف بروس انه اطباء اللي يقررون هذا الشيء، لكن يعني في يعني محل شك هذه النقطه. وايضا يعني انه راح ينتقل ايدي هاو مع عائلته يعني بشكل رسمي الى نيوكاسل بعد عطله الاعياد نهايه السنه.
Maybe we should just the headline we have up there, during the school run, we should clarify for our Saudi friends that means that he was taking, like he would take his kids to school in the car. It's not
no, come on.
It's nothing to do with running.
No. طيب
we have these I mean, it was an adjustment for me, even coming from America to Britain, to have these different it's the same language, but they use some different terms. So yeah.
مقالنا القادم طبعا من جريدة اليوم الميدان الرياضي بإشراف الأستاذ الكبير عيسى الجوكم. طبعا إعداد المقال كان من معتز الحديدي، كان يوم الخميس. طبعا راح يعني نترجم أهم. أوكي، طبعا احنا بنترجم الحين الإنجليزي، يعني المقال اللي تبغى تقراه شوف جريدة اليوم. This article by اليوم newspaper from journalist عيسى الجوكم by preparation by معتز الحديدي. He taking now Eddie Howe start of structure, start to build Newcastle or maybe new Newcastle. Talking about Eddie Howe, that Newcastle United now want to start a new era after getting a new manager after weak start this season. No 3 points until now, 5 points from 11. Howe announced that first goal this season is to stay in the Premier League after a bad start. He should fight to stay. Howe says also, I make good conversation with the owners. It's all about short term. I have faith in my team to avoid relegation, but I'm not promising that. I will provide all my maximum to the club. I believe we can, but this will cost hard work and sacrifice. Also talking about Eddie Howe, when he went from Bournemouth, quit Bournemouth or sacked in August 2020 after relegation. Also, as we speak now, just now that he became more active after the break, but they didn't mention much about. It doesn't mention here the courses he have, but it's just they mentioned that he got study by himself, but no much details about that. Also, and they talk about that, and this is, I believe, this is a good thing, that now in Bournemouth there is attacking style of play, and this is what he went to do in Newcastle. First game, Brentford, next Saturday. Okay, talking about Eddie Howe, he's English, 43 years old. Prefer plan is formation is 4-4-2. Bournemouth, Burnley, he coached them before, and his record, and that was it. That was from اليوم newspaper.
Yes.
From sports section Al Maidan, supervised by journalist عيسى الجوكم.
Nice.
Yes. Any comment on that, Chris?
Yeah. So, it's just a complete different approach from the, let's say, not say his name, from the former head coach to the new head coach. We've got a manager who's been out of the league for almost 2 years, but he hasn't sat by and let the game go bust. He's really studied, prepared. He's all about preparation, because he's one of those people that believes that the way that you perform in practice is how you perform on the pitch in the game. And he not one of those people that believes that there's certain people that just don't practice well, but they turn it on in the match, and that might bode badly for somebody like Alan St. Maximin, who we've sort of, obviously we're not at practice, but from what we've seen in the practice, he's sort of a bit shell-shocked in terms of the system change, because under Steve Bruce, it sort of was seen as some player that would let him kind of do whatever he wanted as long as he was playing in the matches and producing. Whereas I don't think that under Eddie Howe that he's going to have sort of give anyone slack. He expects everyone to perform in practice, and if you don't perform in practice, you're not going to play. So I'm very curious when I go to. I'll be at Brentford on Saturday. I mean, I'll be at the match against Brentford in Newcastle on Saturday, and I'm really his first team selection is going to be so interesting because it's we saw under from the transition from the former coach to Graham Jones, there wasn't much of a change in the lineup, but this is a fresh start for everyone, so it could be a very different lineup, and we hopefully could see players like Jamal Lewis or Fabian Schär, players that were not even seeing the bench under the former coach. We hopefully, if things are going to plan, but the problem with that with Jamal Lewis and Schär is that they're both away with their national teams during the international break. So Schär is playing with Switzerland, and Jamal Lewis is playing with Northern Ireland. So they haven't had a practice yet under Eddie Howe, but hopefully, I'm sure he and his team are watching those games and seeing how the players are performing away from Newcastle and what kind of players they're getting. And I'm sure he knew every player very in depth before he even came to Newcastle. But so I don't think that the players being away on the national teams is going to hurt their chances. I think that Schär should probably start and will probably start against Brentford, and hopefully the same for Jamal Lewis. But maybe Jamal Lewis will at least get on the bench.
Chris, before we go to next article, do you think, in your opinion, the players will complain of the new heavy training after relaxing 3 years with the pros?
Well, we saw some. There's that young reporter, young YouTuber Adam Pearson, who's getting sort of the coverage of. He was filming the practice through the fence yesterday, and you could see a bunch of players that were they weren't running around. They were sitting down on their butts or backsides, or kind of leaning over, like they were winded. They were, as we would say in the UK, knackered. They were so tired, and it was only halfway, not even halfway into practice, and they're already
you notice this vibe from the sitting? You notice this, or
well, you could see through when he's filming through the fence, you can see you can basically see who the players are, and some of the players are sitting down.
But how are they gonna play against Brentford and if they're tired this much?
Hopefully the fitness levels improve in these 2 weeks until Brentford. But I mean, Eddie Howe is if people are not performing, if he's not seeing performance in practice, he's not going to play. So
يقول كريس انه يعني شهدوا في مناسبه اجتماعيه اللاعبين كانوا واضح عليهم مرهقين وكراسيهم من التدريبات الشاقه حقت ايدي هاو. عاد ما ادري عاد they need maybe ice bath and good jacuzzi to be prepared for Brentford game.
Ice bath in the wheelie bins.
All right, what do you have next, Chris?
Okay, so for my next article, we have what do we have? Liam Kennedy.
Oh, Liam Kennedy. So this is the only photo I find with Liam Kennedy.
Great photo. That's at the pizza place.
Yes, Portofino or Portofino.
What pizza? They said last night on the people were asking what pizza did Waleed have, and
actually, I'm a baby. I like margarita.
Margarita, yes, that's what they
sometimes said. Pepperoni, sometimes.
Yes.
Okay, Liam Kennedy, journalist from Newcastle World, and now I think with Arab News. Okay, so what is the article here? I think this is the one. So what is with this article?
So a lot of the sort of question when we brought in Eddie Howe was, what's the place of Graham Jones, who was our interim manager, interim head coach, because as I said before, Jason. I mean, he has Eddie Howe has these assistants, Jason Tyndall, who's like his assistant head coach that he's worked with since his Bournemouth days, and so it's a question of how did Eddie Howe fit into this group? Well, there's two things there. So when Eddie Howe left Bournemouth and Jason Tyndall became the head coach, Graham Jones joined Jason Tyndall's staff. So Jason.
So sorry to interrupt. So Graham Jones didn't work with Eddie Howe before.
No. So after he left, his number 2 became his number 1, and then the Jason Tyndall brought in Graham Jones as his assistant. So Graham Jones has worked with everyone on that staff except for Eddie Howe. But at the same time, Eddie Howe, in the last article, we're talking about what he was doing in his months off. He was considering that if he came back to coaching, he wanted to add another coach to his staff. So it's sort of it works together, Ma'an, that it's fortunate that they have Graham Jones, who knows the whole team and has coached the team, has worked with Jason Tyndall and the other assistant coaches, and he fits in with Eddie Howe's vision of bringing in another assistant. The only curious thing is that they are both considered, both Tyndall and Graham Jones are both considered the assistant head coach, which so there's not a clear hierarchy in terms of who's number 2. Is it? Are we saying it's not Tyndall? It's not Graham Jones. It's both of them together.
So number 2 now is Jason and Graham Jones, or nobody knows who number
on together. So it's like they have 1, 2, 2, and then 4, 5, 6. So there's no number 3 because they're all the two assistant coaches are equal.
I read Chris that there is Eddie Howe take much time in signing official because this issue is this is what we hear, that Graham Jones, Newcastle want management, the owners want Graham Jones to stay,
yes.
But this is conflict with the teams. Is Eddie Howe doesn't want Graham Jones, or this is not the story?
No, I don't think that's the story. I think this, like I said, that Eddie Howe knows who Graham Jones is because Graham Jones worked not only with England in the World Cup, but before when he was brought to Newcastle last January, almost a year ago, he came from Bournemouth. We paid some compensation to Bournemouth to take Graham Jones from Bournemouth, where he was working under Jason Tyndall. So
why he left Bournemouth at that stage? If you know.
I think because Bournemouth was in the Championship, and here he had an opportunity. We will never know whether it's hired by Steve Bruce or Mike Ashley, Lee Charnley. Let's just assume that it wasn't Steve Bruce's choice, and that he was identified by Charnley and Mike Ashley, and he was hired by them to be, essentially to sort of put pressure on Steve Bruce. Steve Bruce will always say it was my idea. I wanted another assistant, so I brought him in. But it seemed very clear that he was brought in to sort of put pressure and maybe force out Steve Bruce and take over. But that never happened until, of course, the takeover happened.
طبعا مقالة اليوم كانت تتكلم عن الترتيب بين المدربين، لأنه طولت التعاقد مع مدرب إيدي هاو، واعتقد أنه بسبب الخلافات حول الطاقم التدريبي. طيب عشان نرتب الوضع، طبعا إيدي هاو تم إقالته من بورموث في أغسطس 2020 لما هبطوا للشامبيونشيب، ذكرنا الأسباب من شوي. جريم جونز اللي تم جلبه من بورموث، فالأغلبية تحسب أنه جريم جونز اشتغل مع إيدي هاو، وهذا لم يحدث. لما أقال إيدي هاو من بورموث 20 في أغسطس جيسون المساعد حق إيدي هاو هو تولى الدفة التدريبية حقت بورموث، ثم انضم جريم جونز ليكون مساعد مع جيسون. الآن الخلاف الحين المدرب رقم 1 هو إيدي هاو، المساعد المدرب ما نعرف هل هو جيسون ولا هو جريم جونز، لكن على الأغلب إنه بيكونون يعني يعتبرون مع بعض اللي هم assistant coach مساعد المدرب. يعني lucky now Eddie Howe, we have 2 assistant coach.
Yes, and this is the other thing that I didn't articulate this before, but the issue that I see with Graham Jones and Jason Tyndall is that at Bournemouth, Jason Tyndall was the clear number 1. He was the head coach, and Graham Jones was his assistant. And now you come to Newcastle, and they're both equal. Whereas the only relationship that they had before was that Graham Jones was working for Jason Tyndall as his boss, and now they're both at the same level, and their boss is Eddie Howe. So I'm sort of curious. I mean, maybe it's sort of we're reading something into it that's not there, and they're mates, and so they'll work well together. But it is sort of an interesting dynamic that they have a former head coach assistant dynamic at Bournemouth, and now they're both the assistant head coach at Newcastle.
So I think they will have everyone will be responsible for some work, of course. I don't think there will be a conflict.
No cones. He says he's not going to put up. Graham Jones, he's not going to put the cones out. So some of the other assistants will have to do that.
Okay, مقالنا القادم المحامي ماجد قاروب صحيفة عكاظ. Now we are going to Ukaz newspaper, and the article by lawyer. He's a lawyer. Majid Garoub, he's a lawyer. So he's Nick DeMarco Coley. So he wrote a great article over here. We're gonna translate it and to see what it's about. It's actually an interesting one. Let's see. Okay. Okay, what Majid Garoub says. طبعا يتكلم the title is Newcastle is not just a sport deal.
Yeah.
Buying a club who suffer lately in table of Premier League, we have to oops, I get time here. Okay. Okay, we would like to we are asking ourselves why this club instead of others. First of all, we have to consider the geographic location of the club in the southeast of England. Northeast, sorry. This is always I do this mistake.
Yes.
Northeast.
I'm in the south.
Thank you, Chris. Yes. And this club, he's very famous and popular in England, which is belong more than 108 years old. Most popular in the area, in the region. They have great history in having champions, leagues, trophies, and he have a lot of investment factors regarding real estate and assets, and there is a big opportunity to invest in the land by building student units and for employees to improve the income of the club, to put it in better financial matters. When after resale, I don't know, he said after resale, it's going to be multiple of multiple from the purchase amount.
Inshallah.
No, for me, no, not inshallah. For me, I don't want to. I don't know if you're talking about resell the club. I don't think this is real. This will not happen.
No, I know.
With
No,
all my respect, Mr.
I
Majid,
his idea is that they buy a club for 300 million and they make it into more than $1 billion because like
yeah, but we are not selling. This is for life. So I'm sorry, Mr. Majid.
the value.
Okay, let's continue. Okay. Doing this deal or finish this deal with this price after 2 years, with this all rumors in sport world and the media, the Europe and English, shows that the Saudis like to wanted to buy English club, and a lot of يعني all the numbers being said, but it's 300 million only. 300 million only. This was the deal, and this is assure that the great worker team of Saudi negotiating was amazing and was very professional regarding business, world of business and investment. Everyone should know, and being a chief or chairman of English club by itself only, this is considered a big certificate, proof from highest level of integrity, transparency, knowledge, and science. Not just by money, you can buy a club in the elite English teams, because there should be integrity, science, experience, in the know. This is not just a place for negotiating or between governments and sport officials and Premier League Association. It's considered as a international proof or certificate, prove the professionalism of PIF and His Excellency Yasser Rmayyan in all levels. Okay, that's the article.
Yeah, it shows.
I'm just doing live translation, so trying to make it easy. Okay, I'm really sure PIF will pass all the experience and the sport knowledge you have, especially for football and Premier League, precisely in all legal. This is good. All the legal and investment and financial matters. Yani he mean that now there is experience in all legal stuff. So I think he meaning about the case of sponsors and the invocable players in transfer window, etc., etc. All the player rights will be care about. Okay, I just lost here. Yes. Okay. Also, he gives the credit to sport minister, Olympic, all the sport nation in Saudi Arabia, especially Saudi Football Association. And this is what it's important in this deal, because I see the benefits. It's endless in management of sport investment. More than, it's not just about direct sport benefit, it's benefit in the management and investing for this great club in the next coming 5 years. And hopefully it will stay among them in the mid-table during this 5 years, and after that going to the places allow the club to play in Champions League or European League. Before fans thinking of the title, which maybe need about a decade to achieve the title, approximately
2030, maybe 2030 vision.
Yes,
2030
hopefully before, but 2030 will be great.
Yes.
And this is as a result of the good spirit, great spirit for the fans and the players after PIF, because it's investment deal in sports sector for football club. That was Majid Garoub. Great article, except the part of reselling. This is, I don't know this.
Yeah, no. It's just saying that we want the value to be seen as like $1 billion club, because that, but we don't want to sell. Yes. No, that's a good article, and it shows that the Saudis, the PIF, they weren't just going to invest. They, people keep asking us in all these chats, like, are they buying Inter? Are they buying all these clubs? It's like, it's no. They studied the market. They saw a value proposition, as we say, in the business, that here's Newcastle United, a one city club in the Premier League, the best league in the world, a historically great club that hasn't done very well recently, and that there's a chance there to, with the fan base, with the region, to really build up the club into something great. Because, as of now, we have these the two centers of football are London and the northwest with Manchester United, Manchester City, and Liverpool are all pretty close together, and then you have the northeast with Newcastle. So it's a question of, all the media are based in London and Manchester, so it's a question of shifting the power center from the northwest and London to the northeast, and that's what we can do under the new ownership.
Brilliant. So now what we have next?
Now we have what is the journalist Matt Lewis? It's can you go to the next page? See the name.
No, that's Chris Wu.
That's all.
No, that's one. Daily Mail.
Matt Hughes. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is Matt Hughes is the chief sports writer for the Daily Mail. So he's a colleague and is like a superior of Craig Hope. So Craig Hope only covers Northeast sports, whereas Matt Hughes covers everything. So this is a new journalist for us, but they're talking about, and the good thing about, as I told you before, is that the Daily Mail puts the whole story in the headline. So Newcastle are confident they're going to be able to agree sponsorship deals with Saudi Arabian companies at the end of November, because as we've discussed before, we're currently under this ban on Newcastle is prevented currently from doing related party sponsorships. So with Saudi companies, and I've heard before, I want to dispel a myth that people were saying the related companies would only be PIF investments. It's not just companies that PIF are invested in that are considered related, but it's sort of anything Saudi tied to the state run or anything like that. So Newcastle currently cannot do sponsorship deals with Aramco or Neom or Saudia airline or the new Saudi airline, which I think there's a lot of speculation that maybe about your comment that the new airline that Saudi will launch will be a great sponsorship opportunity to put the name of the new Saudi airline on the Newcastle kit, or to name the stadium Saudia at St. James Park or something. So this in the next 2 weeks, the ban is expected to be lifted at the next Premier League meeting, and then that will free up Newcastle to be able to unveil these sponsorship deals. And we expect that in this interim period while they're banned, Newcastle, Amanda Staveley has been working behind the scenes to secure a big deal that they can announce straight away when the ban is lifted, and then now inject a lot of money into Newcastle for the upcoming January transfer window, because Amanda Staveley has said, doesn't matter whether we get the money from the sponsorship, we're going to put the money in for January. We don't usually spend money in January because you don't get good deals in January, but because of where the team is and where we want them to be, they're going to invest significantly in January.
What do you mean ban will be lifted in November? Can you?
So the Premier League has had a 1 month ban on related parties sponsorships, but they agreed at the last meeting this week that it's going to go away at the next meeting, and then the next
because they are not right. The Premier League, they find it legally it's difficult.
Yeah, there's no way to legally enforce this ban. So they're going to insist that everyone has fair market value deals, but they can't single out Newcastle or any other club to prevent them from
isn't this is embarrassing doing even 1 month ban? Do you think this is just to absorb the anger from the clubs, or what was this actually? It's embarrassing.
No, it is embarrassing, and it's more of the our friend Keith Patterson. Of course, brought the cat case, and that was maybe the thing that really broke was the real breakthrough for the deal to go through. Was this threat of legal action, anti-competition, and how anti-competitive can you get to immediately after the takeover to sort of bring out these new rules, which critically do not apply retroactively. So Man City, anyone that's already dealing deals, doesn't apply to them, but it only applies to the new kid on the block with all the money, Newcastle. So it was really unfair, and it was never going to stand to be a permanent thing. That because you couldn't have 19 clubs against one club, that was the whole thing. Yeah.
Regarding Keith Patterson, they say that the I think 8 or 9 gig is still with me for anti-competition law. We still can use it.
Yes,
by print.
He's got the files. He just whoever wants to bring a new case, Keith Patterson can just hit send and send the files that he's got, because he's got the ammunition, as we say.
هذه المقالة من الديلي ميل للصحفي مات هيوز. طبعا مات هيوز هو رئيس الأخبار الرياضية المتعلقة في منطقة نيوكاسل ككل، اللي يعمل معها طبعا كريغ هوب. هو رئيس كريغ هوب الصحفي المعروف. ما بالعادة يتكلم عن نيوكاسل، اللي هو يتكلم عن مات هيوز. يتكلم كريستيان يقول لك العنوان هذا تايتل، العنوان هو الخبر كامل، انه نهايه نوفمبر راح الايقاف المحرج او بالنسبه للبريمير ليج، انه يقول لك قانون انه لن نسمح بالعقود الرعايه اذا كانت من نفس الدوله وما الى اخره. سووا قانون مؤقت، لكن واضح انهم شافوا انه هذا الشيء مستحيل قانونيا، وراح يعرضهم المشاكل مثل مشاكل صفقه الاستحواذ. الوقوف القانوني زي ما قلنا قبل، انه حقنا راح ناخذه بالقانون، زي ما قال الاستاذ الاعلامي عبد الله درويش لما قال انه زي ما اخذنا صفقه الاستحواذ بالقانون راح ناخذ عقود الرعايه بالقانون، وهذا اللي صار. طبعا على نهايه نوفمبر راح ان شاء الله، قبل نهايه نوفمبر راح نبدا عروض الرعايه. لسه انا كثير يجيني اسئله، لسه ما احنا متاكدين صراحه بالضبط. سمعنا عن الطيران عن الخطوط الجويه السعوديه، لكن لسه ما في تفاصيل مؤكده حول هذا الموضوع الى الان على حد علمي. هذا كان بالنسبه للمقال. ايضا تكلموا على نقطه السبورت دايركت، انه متى ينشال. طبعا هو ما يقدرون ينشلونه لانه في عقد، واعتقد انه حسب ما قرينا في المقاله انه راح يستمر تقريبا اسبوعين، بعدين تقريبا خلاص يصير ممكن تزال جميع جميع ارث مايك اشلي اللي هو متعلق بسبورت دايركت. الشعار، لانه الشعار مزعج صراحه، اللي حتى للملاك احيانا لما يلتقطون الصور تكون شعار حق شركه مايك اشلي موجوده. تجاريا هذا الشيء مزعج حاليا، لكن ان شاء الله هي فتره بسيطه، اسبوعين تقريبا، وننتهي من هذا الموضوع. That was last article with us. Okay, I have also I translated Amanda Stively interview by UFC, and hopefully I will see it today in some of Saudi newspaper. I'm waiting.
Inshallah.
Let's finish with the Brentford game. Your expectation, Chris, as long as you're going there.
Yes, I'm going there. So I want to see a win. Let's say go for the 2-1 win. I think it's going to be like the performance will be dependent on who we have in the lineup. So my ideal lineup will probably be a 4-4-2. We would have Dubravka back in goal. We'd have Cher and Fernandez as the center backs. Left back Jamal Lewis, right back let's say Manquillo, and then in the central midfield I would have let's say let's see who should we go here. Central midfield I would have I guess you have to put Shelby in there and Hayden. And then on the wings, I would have Matt Ritchie, and so that's a key. That'll be the first thing I want to look at. Is he can actually play Matt Ritchie as a midfielder and a winger, and not as a fullback. So on the wings, I'd have Matt Ritchie, and who else? Ryan Fraser, and then up front, I would have Callum Wilson, Maximin, and who's the guy from Arsenal? Who's our young Joe Willock? Yeah.
Oh, Joe Willock.
So that's more than I think I just named 12 players. But yeah, we got it. So like 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1.
He prefers 4-4-2 usually.
Yeah. So I don't expect all those players to be in there, but especially Jamal Lewis. Jamal Lewis is not going to go from not playing to starting. I don't think. Maybe at least put Jamal Lewis on the bench.
Chris, when Steve Bruce left and came and Graham Jones, we didn't see much a difference.
Yes.
So do you think Brentford, we are not going to see much difference, or Eddie touches will be very clear?
I think
as he said that he will play for forward attacking.
Yes, I think we will see a difference. Maybe not as much difference as I just outlined in my ideal lineup there. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's going to take time. And again, we can't make any lineup changes. We can't make any transfers or acquisitions, signing new players until January. So for the next, I think it's 9 matches that we play until January. We're going to have to make do with what we have, but that's Eddie Howe is committed to that, to getting the best out of his team. And even if it's a total overhaul of the team or just getting more out of the existing players that Bruce and Graham Jones played, I think we'll see a difference. And he's going to light a fire, as we say. He's going to light a fire underneath this club. And with the fitness levels improved, we won't see them knackered after 60 minutes. But they'll be able to play 90 minutes, maybe not against Brentford, but certainly by these next 4 matches is what it's going to define our season, because we have a very difficult December where we're playing Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool.
11 games on the road.
Yes. So these next 4 matches that we're playing against Brentford, Arsenal, what else? Brentford, Arsenal, Burnley, and Norwich. we need to get. I would say we need to get at least 9 points, if not all 12. We need those 9 points because we're currently like 5 points from safety. So we need to not just, we need to grab maximum points from the next 4 matches, because we may only get like 1 or 2 points from the really tough December.
Have you feeling, Chris? That's a question for you. Do you have this feeling that the media or the people with agenda, they just want to drag us out of the field to just make us just relegated?
It depends on who we're talking about. I mean, I think
because every week something happens. Every week.
Yes. I mean, I think it's historically, when Newcastle is good, like the league is good. And when Newcastle is down, the league is down. So I think it's a beneficial to the national media, if you want to call them that to have a rejuvenated, rebuilt, resurgent Newcastle as a strength in the Northeast, and not just have the football center just be the Northwest, Manchester and Liverpool and Southeast with London. It's better for the Premier League to have a third center of a top team, and Newcastle's the team. So let's away the lads, and let's get a win at Brentford and start a new era off on the front foot.
Good luck, Chris, in the game, and send us the pictures. And if you have maybe some special covering for us, we'll play it in the show.
Yes.
We want to talk a bit last minute about Newcastle United Saudi Supporter Club. طبعا هذه رابطة مشجعي نيوكاسل، أدعو الجميع للمشاركة فيها كثير مميزات. حتى ممكن اللي ينضم للرابطة ويسجل عضوية، يعني مجرد تسجيل إيميل. راح أيضا يوجد عروض راح نتكلم عنها اليوم بالتفصيل. حلقة اليوم مع مستر إل خاصة بماذا حدث في نيوكاسل، خصم 10% وما إلى ذلك. أتمنى أنه إن شاء الله تشرفونا في موقع الرابطة إن شاء الله، اللي راح يكون لها مستقبل كبير. في النهاية نشكركم في هذه الحلقة. طبعا هذه الحلقة نجمع فيها أهم أخبار الصحف من السعودية ومن بريطانيا تتكلم عن نيوكاسل مع صديقي كريس. Thank you Chris. See you next week. نراكم في الأسبوع المقبل بإذن الله.
بالنسبه لما يجيك ستيف بروس مثلا يحط لك 5 في خط الدفاع ويلعب مهاجمين، اللاعبين في النص.
What is your VPN?
My VPN?
Yes.
My VPN is Spider VPN.
Take me home to the banks of the river.